Hi, and welcome everyone to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. Today we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. Hello, everyone. Such a joy, as always, to be here with you again. And as you just heard, welcome to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. And of course, we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. And you can hear them on FM at 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. So tonight, we're pretty excited. We're going to be stepping into one of the most unsettling questions a curious mind can ask. And that is, what if we're not at the peak of human knowledge, but in the aftermath of its loss? Across ancient ruins, unexplained technologies, vanished civilizations, and fragments of myths that refuse to die, there's a persistent whisper in the historical record. It suggests that something extraordinary once existed, knowledge, skill, or understanding that didn't survive the march of time, not because it was primitive, but perhaps because it was too advanced or too fragile or maybe just too inconvenient. Our guest today is Jack R. Bialik. He explores this provocative idea in Lost in Time, Our Forgotten and Vanishing Knowledge, which is an excellent read. I loved every minute of it. You learn so much. It's mind-blowing. And in this conversation, we'll examine whether humanity has experienced intellectual collapses before, or whether entire systems of understanding were maybe erased by catastrophe or design, which would be sad, but could be true. And we're also going to explore what it would mean if progress isn't a straight line, but a circle. Maybe it's all just cyclical. And what if humanity's greatest knowledge isn't the past, but unfolding right now? In an age of cloud storage, artificial intelligence, and instant information, global innovator and engineer Jack Bialik warns that the hidden risks of a fully digital society and what history reveals about how knowledge is possibly lost. And Lost in Time unravels the intricate tapestry of human civilization, weaving together narratives of inventions of yesterday, overlooked pioneers, and epic defining discoveries that have shaped our modern world. So let's settle in, and we're about to delve into these questions about stories we've been told in the past and possibly rethink what it means to be advanced at all. And if you guys are in the chat, by all means, we love having you there. Pop in, ask some questions, leave some comments. We always love seeing and hearing from you. So without further ado, let me introduce Jack. Such a pleasure, Jack. Hi.
Hi there, Carol Ann. Great
so
to
nice
meet
to
you.
meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course, it's a blessing. Hello, Libracast. So good to see you. Bonsoir. So Jack, let us know, aside from what the driving mechanism was behind writing this book, because I could just imagine the research that went into this. It seems like it was really a task. How did you arrive at the place that you're at today? Tell us a little bit about your background. And you're going to hear me say hello to folks. Hello, Heidi. We love having folks in the chat. So go right ahead, Jack. Take it away.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, well, so I've always kind of liked to be a researcher and, a collector of ancient knowledge. And as early as I can remember, I always wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make a positive difference in the world. And I started coming across these facts that were just amazing. And I thought, wow, what does this all mean?
Mm,
You know, we did cataract surgery in 800 BC
yeah.
in India. You know, Shushruta, a very famous physician in India, did cataract surgery, and we have records of the Babylonians and the Egyptians doing cataract surgery in 2400 BC. You know, it's 4,400 years ago, and we think it's a recent invention, of course. Well, our version of it is recent, of course, but they had a different way of doing it back then, and maybe it wasn't as successful. But um, I started seeing all these facts like that, and I said,
Hmm.
"What is going on? What are we doing to ourselves as a human race?" You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question to ask. I think I ask it every day. Um, it's amazing in your book how you talk about these things. You show pictures and things like that. And that kind of blew me away because it seemed like with the cataract surgery, they were kind of on the spot with what the problem was, but specs weren't invented. And, I guess it really didn't help much. But I think you said it took that cloudiness away, or,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they
so.
did they did something a little different. They did a couching procedure where they would, move the lens of the eye that was clouded out of the way. And Shishruta, there's some records. He would do things like they would put butter in the eye to help it heal, which is maybe not that great, but that was their way. And they were only about 40% successful in their
Yeah.
surgeries. So it was, not a perfect way, but
Yeah.
people wanted to see, they wanted to be able to see
Yeah, I
something.
guess they would do anything to take that opportunity. So I found it interesting too that wasn't that surgery done like not only in Egypt and Babylonian, but like you said, in India. So it seems so interesting to me that, without the communication we have today, that they were able to figure that out of their own volition, so to speak.
Well, hey, we keep refinding stuff all the
Yeah.
time. It's just amazing. So, I talk also about vending machines in 80 BC.
Yeah.
We think we have the most recent thing, but they had a vending machine in ancient Rome where they would put a Roman coin in and it would dispense holy water at temples. And there
Wow.
was even a version of it that would generate steam that would come up on an idol's face and make it look like it was crying so they
Oh,
could
goodness.
get more money.
Wow. Jeez, it makes you wonder. I mean, I've seen like on shows on TV, they show you these like automatons or autonomous like designs of robotic things that move when you crank them. And they were so intricate. These things that were created thousands of years ago, it's just mind blowing. So, what's the furthest back that you dated something like that that was mind blowing to you? How far back did it go in your research?
Well, there's a couple of examples that are pretty good. Plumbing. Sewer,
Yeah. Wow.
sewers go back to 3000 BC in Scotland. Neolithic people that lived there in the Orkney Islands had toilets and sewers. But,
Wow.
if we look at the Middle Ages, 1400s, there were no toilets in Europe. The sewage ran off the top of buildings and down into the streets. And so what happened? I mean, how did we forget? I mean, Rome had great water distribution systems and sewer systems and all that. And yet in the Middle Ages, we forgot how to do
Crazy.
it or what to do. So the oldest one I'll say though is the elephant in the room.
Mm,
It's the Great Pyramid, the Giza Pyramid. Um, that pyramid, if we just take one of those pyramids, and I did something really simple, I just said, hey, what if we were to try to build one of those today using our technology and everything we had? What if we
Mm,
did that? How could we do that? And I said, let's see, there's 2.3 million stones. Each one weighs 3 tons or more. They did it
mm,
over 20 years. So I just did some simple math. And I said, you'd have to put one 3-ton stone down every 2 minutes, 12
mm.
hours a day, 365 days a year for 20 years. Now,
Wow.
I mean, it's just mind blowing. I mean, how could you do that? I mean, it's
It
just
is.
amazing. So
I mean,
they
I've
had,
seen examples of that, of different, theories of how they came to be.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's quite a few theories
Mm,
out there, different ones, but of course, they're looking at it from our standpoint, from our technology. How would
right.
we do it? They're not looking at it from their standpoint of how they did it because they didn't have our technology. They had to use some other way. And however they did it, I mean, there's some people that say, aliens came and did it. Well, it's possible.
Mm,
It is possible, but I prefer to think that we did it and we just forgot how we did it. We lost the knowledge. And
yeah.
there's plenty of other examples of things where we lose knowledge all the time. Uh, and there's tons of reasons for it. But those pyramids, however they did it, they didn't use a wheel, they didn't have pulleys. And to think about it, however they did it, they didn't need the wheel, they didn't need pulleys. So however they did it, whatever technology they had, you
Yeah, it's
know,
crazy.
was different. Yep.
It is. It's crazy. I mean, speaking of aliens, I've of course heard that theory. I'm not really sold on that. The
Yeah.
one that interested me is that they could have possibly used sound vibration to like soften the concrete, get it to where they needed to get it, and then have it harden once it got there. Because did you ever see like the earth when it vibrates, it can actually turn dirt into liquid? I
Mm.
mean, I've seen that like in precursor to earthquakes and things.
Earthquakes. Mm.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of theories about that. Would you mind if I showed a picture from your PDF?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Well, this I thought was so interesting, and it's an example of the cataract surgery that we were talking about, and that was called couching, I think you said.
Yeah, couching procedure.
Yeah. So it's kind of nuts to think that there was somebody, some doctor who figured that out, that it was something in the eye forming that would create, this cloudy vision. And that if they lifted up, do you think they like probably did experiment on corpses in lifting? Yeah, I mean, they
Yeah,
must
I'm
have,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they must have, because I'll tell you, so there's another little fact about your cornea, or about the lens of your eye. Your cornea is the most sensitive part of your entire body.
Yeah.
And it has more nerve endings per square inch than any other part of your body. And if you get a
Mm.
hair in your eye, or you get
Oh,
a piece of dust, drives you
absolutely.
nuts
It
until
does
it
drive
comes
you
out.
nuts.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
I had one
So
this morning. It was in a little eyelash and it makes you nuts. That's so true. Yet
yeah.
I know a friend of mine had her a cornea replacement, and I
Mm,
think she was like awake. And
mm.
I don't think that it has the same nerve endings that like the rest of our body does. So they could do a lot of it without you being under anesthesia, which is mind blowing too. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know.
yeah.
It's maybe they use a
Well,
numbing. I'm sure they use a numbing agent, but it's
you
crazy.
got you got a picture of it there. What they did
Yeah.
is tied you to a chair
Oh,
because they didn't have a numbing agent until the 1800s, and this is the
yeah. Oh,
1700s that they're doing it. So, you know,
imagine being tied to a chair like that. That's
yeah,
like torture for me. I mean, that would be definitely under the category of torture. But you
yeah,
have so many great examples in your book, and it's always nice to get a visual perspective of things. So, did you ever experience anything like paranormal in your life that like drove you to this topic? Or was it just like you said before that you wanted to share knowledge and get a better grasp of what kind of world we lived in?
Well, it was kind of unfolding. It took 10 years to write this book.
Oh, I believe it.
And yeah, so it was kind of an unfolding that happened as I was collecting this ancient knowledge. I got to the point where I said, you know, what's the point? Why are we doing this? This is crazy. There's a really great example. This isn't in the book, so this is bonus material.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
uh, in Peru in the year 400 BC, they did um, cranial surgery. Like if somebody got hit in the head with a rock and the skull got cracked, they would go in and patch it. And so they were about 40% successful in 400 BC. They kept doing it until the year 1400. And in the year 1400, they were over 90% successful in their surgeries.
Wow.
And now, if we fast forward to the Civil War, we did cranial surgery because people got hit in the head for,
Sure.
swords, whatever.
Yeah.
And they were only 50% effective, successful.
Wow.
So if we could have kept that knowledge from Peru over to, the Civil War time, we could have saved a lot of lives, most
Why do you
likely.
think that didn't happen?
Well, so let me give you, this is what I've come to realize. At first I thought, because also in the book is a lot of information about lost libraries, hundreds of libraries.
Sure.
We know we've lost over 600 libraries in the 1900s alone,
Mhm.
due to war and earthquakes and fires and all sorts of things. And I used to think that we lose this knowledge because because of war and because of natural disasters,
Mhm.
earthquakes and fires and floods. But that's not the reason we lose the knowledge. The reason
Mm.
we lose the knowledge is because we don't want to keep it. We don't really want it. we, we, if we think about it, if you have something you want and you want to keep it safe, you put it somewhere safe. You know exactly
Absolutely.
because you put it with other safe things you have, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But as a race, as a human race, as a worldwide group of people living on this great blue marble, whatever you want to call it, uh, we don't want it. It's not important. It's the war is more important. The fire is more. We don't really think it's important to keep it. We think it's more important to go blow up. 1 million artifacts were lost in Baghdad during the war
Tragic.
there. Yeah, and and it wasn't just from one group, one people. I mean, there was multiple countries were involved. Even the people there did it as well, stole things and busted up stuff,
Yeah.
so it's just everybody. No, it's worldwide. It's not important.
Yeah,
So
that really rings true. Yet there's a driving force in the souls of man that kind of pushes them to want to cure cancer and want to cure disease. So, every now and then we get technology that does help humanity. I agree with you. It's not as often as it should be. I mean, if you think about it, we're planning a trip to Mars, and yet we still can't cure cancer, but because that's more important, like you said, the
yeah,
priorities, I guess, are not where they should be.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
tragically sad. But I did also read about that, and you mentioned it before, that if something is sacred enough, you'll stow it away in a safe place. So like we have these I guess they're called pods or vaults that are storing different types of seeds from vegetables and different types of cures for things. So, we are doing that now. I think we're storing them underground. Supposedly, I've never seen one. I've read about them,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. We have one in Norway. I think the Slivabard, Norway. I think I said that right. Um, uh, it's up in the near the Arctic Circle,
yeah,
and they've stored over 1 million seeds in that vault.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but guess what's happening? It's in danger. I just read an article the other day.
Oh,
It's in danger because of global warming, that it won't
what?
stay cold enough, and those seeds will be at risk of getting lost.
How is global warming affecting that if it's a controlled environment?
Yeah, well, they use the natural, uh, cold that's also in the environment there to help chill the seeds as well. So I don't know the details necessarily of how that's all done, but
I'll have to look into that because sometimes
yeah,
I think they use global warming as an excuse for so much. I mean, I'm sure the planet's experiencing it, but I don't know if I buy that.
yeah,
I couldn't understand why that wouldn't be a controlled environment. I mean, yeah, use outside temperatures to help save energy, maybe, but if they're at risk, then like turn up the AC. It's like crank up the air
yeah.
conditioner. It's
Maybe their
crazy.
solar panels aren't working. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. Did you ever think about maybe the reasons to, and I mean, I'm going to kind of go off the beaten path here, but did you ever think that maybe it has to do with population control? Because especially since the pandemic, humanity has been discovering that, the elites, if we could use just a term to describe who these folks are, maybe they don't like humans so much. And maybe they think the planet is truly overpopulated as we're heading towards 9 billion people, right? Or if we're not there already, I haven't checked recently, but I don't know. Do you think maybe, like you said, it's intention?
Well, maybe do we have that intention in ourselves, to beat ourselves up or something? I don't know, some sort of self-inflicted
Good
pain or,
question.
something like that. Because it seems like, look at Rome, for example, which was a great uh,
Empire, yeah.
empire.
Yeah.
Yeah, they owned so much of the world, the
Oh my
known
God.
world at that time.
Yeah, like
And
three
yet,
quarters, I think, of the globe. They ruled. It was nuts.
yeah, and yet they were overthrown. I mean, the most
Yeah.
powerful, empire in the world. And, what happened? Why? Why? I mean, we can look it up, I guess, and find out. But along with it went all the knowledge they had. I mean, we had the uh, the great libraries at Alexandria. They estimate 400,000 scrolls of religious
Imagine.
texts and all sorts of scholarly texts and that sort of thing. And they were all lost. And
Yeah, it's a good example. I mean, think of that saying, Nero fiddled while Rome burned. I mean, maybe it was intentional it's just so perplexing to me. And that's why I loved your book because it really took me back to a lot of questions. It's all about the questions. You have to ask the right questions to get to the obviously the right answers, or at least in the direction of the right answers. And I think your book does that. It really makes you wonder, like, do you have a copy you could hold up? Because I have a PDF, obviously.
oh
Uh,
yeah, sure.
yeah, show
Yeah,
up a copy of that. Love the cover too. Beautiful font. Really nice. Such a
thank you.
great read. Like people need to start reading more. They just do. And with the internet, we've gotten so lazy. with 3-minute videos that people can't stand to watch anything longer than that, and reading a quick article. So when a book comes around that's so historical and informative, that's why I was so anxious to speak to you, because it's just packed with so much knowledge and information. So thank you for giving that to us. It was a great
Well,
gift.
thank you so much.
You're
Very
welcome.
kind of you. Yeah.
You're welcome. The other thing that blew me away, and I saw this years ago on some documentary. I guess you could say it was the beginning of the assembly line. Those
Mm.
terracotta armies in, is it,
It's in
I'm going to
China.
miss, it's somewhere in China. Is it pronounced Xi'an or Xian? How would you pronounce that?
I'm not sure.
Got me. You got me on that. But that pretty much blew me away too, because there's a website called chinahighlights.com. And that's in your book again, stated that 700,000 people spent 40 years to individually craft each statue. And there are 68,000 in all. So, like, talk to us about that. And I know you've got a picture of that. Folks need to check that out. It's mind blowing. Tell us a little bit about that. The
Yeah, well,
assembly
of
line
course,
and the whole thing.
yeah, of course, you can find great pictures of that on the web if you take a look at it. But yeah, Shin Shi, the excuse me, the emperor there, that man was Qin Shi. Yeah, he was amazing. 210 BC. He built this mausoleum that's 2 million square meters or 538 acres in size, and with 7,000 statues of, all kinds of warriors, chariots, horses, strongmen, musicians. So it covers a huge area. And you can just see all these statues that were made there. But this man, this emperor, Qin Shi, was extremely interesting. And we can see a lot of knowledge that he had that we've found again. For example, he had swords that, each of these warriors and musicians were buried with instruments and swords and that sort of thing. And the swords they found were still sharp. And what's really interesting about that is that they used chromium in the manufacture of their swords. Well, we didn't start using chromium in manufacturing until the 1800s. So this
Wow.
man, 2,000 years prior, was doing things that we didn't find till much, much later. And on top of that, this man was built this mausoleum that today the archaeologists will not open. It will
Oh,
not
is that
open.
right?
Yeah, because it's written that it's booby trapped, and booby
Oh, my
trapped
word.
in such a way that no one wants to open it. It's said that there are rivers of mercury that surround the mausoleum where he's buried. There's a big hill. You can see a picture of it. They'll show you. There's a big hill. They know exactly where it's at.
Mm.
But they believe there's rivers of mercury and all kinds of booby traps in this place where he built it. So very interesting man, quite something, and they had amazing technology as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
There you
for
go.
folks, yeah, for folks that are listening, we're showing right now some of the images of these soldiers. I guess they were citizens. These terracotta army, I guess is what they are. And it's just the detail on some of these is crazy. I mean, and the massiveness of it. Do you think that was the first example of like an assembly line?
Um, It's probably the first one that we know of.
Yeah.
There's probably been others, I think, most
Yeah.
likely. I don't think I have a specific example of one that was also done, but we do this constantly where we find things and knowledge and we just toss it aside or we destroy it when we take over another land. I know a lot of the
Mm.
Mayan culture was destroyed when the Spaniards came in and took over there, and it's just sad. We could have benefited from some of their knowledge in some ways, I'm sure.
Yeah. When did you have that epiphany that convinced you that humanity may have lost significant knowledge rather than simply progressed forward in a straight line? Was it a particular thing you were researching? Was it just like, an aha moment, or was this during your research that you felt that way?
Yeah. So, yeah, like I mentioned, it took 10 years to write the book. And there was a point where I had completed the book with the exception of the last chapter. And I said, what am I going to put in the last chapter? This is interesting. Look at all these libraries that have been lost, and look at all this knowledge we've refound. And oh, by the way, we haven't talked about it yet. But today, what are we doing? And what are we doing with our knowledge today? But I put all this information together and I said, well, what's the point? you know, this is interesting just by itself, but
Yeah.
isn't there something we should gain from seeing this, this uh, trend, we'll call it
Gosh,
over.
that is such a brilliant perspective. And especially since the thing that blew me away was, and there's a lot of debate if we really did go to the moon. We won't go there, but there is a lot of debate about that. And there's more evidence, against it than there is for it. And one of the things that blew me away was there was a video of a very prominent astronaut. I forgot his name. And he said that the reason we can't go back there is because we lost the technology to do that. I mean, this is a real astronaut saying this, that it was somehow lost and that we could never duplicate that same technology to get. I mean, and it makes you wonder, to your point, like, why would you spend billions of, I'm sure it was billions of dollars, if not close to a billion, to get there, and then just be so reckless with the technology in saving it? Like, what did you read about that in your studies, or?
No, I didn't really look into that. It's interesting because every time I look, I had somebody ask me about equine knowledge that's been lost over time. I had somebody that asked me about food.
Yeah.
And any area you go look at, you can see this. Like
Yes.
we used to do all kinds of stuff, back in
Yeah.
ancient days, and then we find it again. Or beer, beer. The ancient Egyptians made beer, and
Yeah.
we're doing it now, of course. Um, so yeah, and technology is not our savior. Technology
I agree.
has its own set of problems that we have to be careful about, at least thoughtful. I think that's the minimum we can do. Be thoughtful about where you put your things. So the other day, I wanted to find a picture. It was a picture that was taken some time ago. So I had some USB drives, some little thumb drives. I had about 8 of them. And so I'm looking through all these drives looking for a picture. And 2 of them wouldn't work.
Oh,
I couldn't even read it. Couldn't even read it. And your computer, think about your computer. How long does your computer last? 5 years, maybe
if you're
10
lucky.
maximum,
Yeah.
and then it's no good. And
Exactly.
these thumb drives are the same thing. They're electronics. They're not going to
Yeah, it's all
last.
garbage. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not. And so we put all kinds of stuff. People put documents and pictures and whatever important things on there, not really thinking about it. And if that's one thing your viewers can take away from this is, think about where you're putting your info. If it's really important to you, make duplicate copies, so
Yeah.
you have, a double copy. Or if it's
Yeah.
an important picture or important document, print it, paper.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, now we have cloud storage, which is questionable too. And it's costly in some cases to have a significant amount of it. But you're spot on about that. Technology is definitely not our friend. Did you find yourself in the later stages of your research using AI to help you do any of the research?
You know, I didn't because I started it before AI was
Yeah.
really around. But
Yep.
let's say if I'm going to do it again, I would definitely use it to help me do the research. Hey, give me examples of this.
Exactly.
Is super for that.
It is, and then
Um,
you gotta question that too, you have to, because
oh
because
yeah,
AI lies inadvertently, it gives you misinformation, so you have to really be careful. Yes, Herb, there's a gentleman named Bart, Sibrel. He's done, I think, the most significant amount of research as to whether or not we really went to the moon. I mean, it's mind blowing. He's got documentaries, books. I've seen a lot of his work, and it really makes you wonder, like, especially when I heard that, why wouldn't you save something so important like the technology that got you to the moon in the first place? So, and the funny thing about tech is that, like, we take thousands and thousands of images with our phones, right? And we store them on your thumb drives or backup drives wherever in the cloud. Nobody really looks at them other than you. I mean, there's not really a family member that's going to sit down and scour through your thousands and thousands of pictures of your dog and, the hike you went on, or something. So, a lot of that stuff, if it gets lost, but yeah, I mean, and then we have things like ancestry.com that is supposed to be a place where we can go to for genetic information. And, there's a lot of that, but I wonder how long that'll be saved for too. Like in 20 years, is all that data going to be housed? What if they don't do well financially and the company goes bankrupt,
oh yeah.
and you have to ask, yeah, Buzz Aldrin did punch him in the nose. That's a whole podcast in and of itself. Let me tell you. But do you think that oral traditions and mythologies contained like encoded memories of lost scientific or technological understandings? Do you think they encoded them, and maybe put them in scrolls inside of mountains somewhere? So we just haven't discovered a lot of this tech, because they still are finding in archaeological
Oh yeah.
digs, these scrolls. And have you come across any of that, like recent findings that were revealing things that were mind blowing?
Well, there certainly are examples of things that, every time they find something, they say, "Oh yeah, well, wow, there goes that theory." Got a new one now. You always come up with a new one. And we'll take Göbekli Tepe, that is
Yeah.
in Turkey. They found that was 20,000 years old.
Yeah.
And they were doing things. They're like, no, everybody was hunter gatherers, and
Yeah.
they farmed. How could they build something like this with these
That's crazy.
huge stones that were carved out and everything? And I don't think we have the big picture. I mean, it's estimated we only have 1.6% of our history recorded. 1.6%.
Wow. That's
So
nothing.
that's nothing. Yeah. And so who knows? I mean, there has to be all kinds of things that people have found. And
Gosh, I never thought about that, Jack. I really never did. I just assumed that everything historical or most of it was documented by someone. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So little. So, there's a lot of mysteries, and there certainly is talk about libraries that were buried. There's one that's been talked about a lot underneath the Sphinx.
Yes.
And they've looked for it, of course, drilled and tried to look for it. But, whoever buried that probably did it in a way that it's going to be, protected. So maybe
Yeah.
difficult to find, but especially if they were advanced in some ways that we don't understand. That advancement, you have to understand that our advancement today is all based on the basis for what we think of everything. Like we think of atoms and molecules, and we have a certain scientific understanding of everything. But the people, who knows, back when the pyramids were built, what was their basis for understanding of everything? I mean, they had a totally
Exactly.
different, it might have been spiritual, it might have been, some other kind of understanding. We can read about it in different places, even in the Bible. If you read about, the Ark of the Covenant that spoke to, was God's presence and was a communication device.
Yeah.
It was a communicator, it was a big box communicator. But how did that work? Was that, if that, there was some technology there that we don't understand today. You can't go build one. I don't believe anybody's tried. But,
Mm.
um, there is technology, and there's in other books too, in other spiritual texts, I think some of the, trying to remember now, that there are other texts where there's
Oh, yeah.
examples of like atomic explosions and things
Right.
like that. And we even have evidence of atomic explosions that were thousands of years ago in the Harponen civilization. They found classified remains that only could have happened from a very high
Look. Oh,
temperature explosion.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Crazy.
there,
Speaking of spirituality, right? They say that it's in the remembering, like we are remembering the knowledge that's already with us. So maybe like that's what's happening every generation. It's cyclical. Do you think it's cyclical that we're just as a humanity remembering these things, and that's why even though it's forgotten knowledge, it's okay because somebody else will remember, how to do cataract surgery, or you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like it seems that way, right?
yeah, certainly that is probably part of it. The other piece of it is it has to do with truth. The
Yeah.
truth is always the same. If 1 + 1 is 2, it's always 1 + 1 is 2. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, you know, where you
Yeah.
are or what time you're in. Um, it's always going to be true. So the fact that you need to remove the cataract out of your eye, you're
Mm,
always going to need that, whether it was 2,000 years ago or 200 years ago. You're going to want to do that. So it's some sort of truth there too that it's
gosh, that's
uncovered.
such a great point. Yeah, because I see that there's like truth with a capital T, which are truths that are just historically true through the history of humankind, right? And then there's truths with a lowercase t, and those are like our individual truths that like we hold to be true. So, yeah, that's such a great
Good.
point. Yeah. What do you think is the clearest like historical examples of knowledge that vanished only to be rediscovered aside from the cataract thing? Like what else blew you away when you something things had to be mind-blowing to you? What were some of those things?
Yeah. Well, I did like the vending machine. I talked a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
that was
We
cool.
had that in 10 BC, but there's also vending machines in China in 1046. China had
Nice.
coin operated pencil sellers. You could put a coin in and
What?
get a pencil. Yeah. Um, and the Chrome, we talked about that with Quinn Shi. Here, an interesting one also that really kind of blew me away was celestial globes. You know
Mm,
about these are globes that they used to make that would show the night sky, and the stars.
yeah,
They didn't know about the world at that time, but they would make a globe and they would put like the constellations on it and different things. And in the year 1400s, there was a family in Lahore, India, that made these globes that were solid metal. Now
mm,
they were hollow in the middle, but metal on the outside. And we don't know how they made them. Like
no
our
kidding.
manufacturing processes today can't make them, or it would be very difficult for us to make them. And the way we make them today is we make two halves, metal halves, put them together and solder them, and
Sure.
then sand it down or whatever and make it into a globe. But they made them some different process that was lost, and they have all kinds of examples. They've X-rayed them. Universities have
Yeah.
these in museums. Very amazing kinds of things.
Wow. That's mind blowing. What role do you think that, like, well, we kind of talked about like natural catastrophes that we had that wiped out all of this knowledge. Do you think that like oral traditions and mythologies can contain or encode these memories?
Yeah.
Um, and if so, like I said, do you think it's cyclical? Like, do you think it's lost forever, or will we eventually rediscover these things? Or
Yep.
maybe just not rediscover them and just keep reinventing the wheel, maybe, right?
Yeah. Well, I think if we can get real smart about it and maybe we can prevent it from happening again. There
Mm,
are examples in history of natural disasters that would be quite it would make our world a little have a difficult time, I'd say. I don't know how to say it, but
yeah,
you
no, I
know,
got
in the late 1800s, they had a what's called a Carrington event
you. I heard about
uh,
that.
from the sun, where it was just a huge electromagnetic pulse. It was a solar
Yeah,
storm from
yeah,
the
indeed.
sun. And back then, they didn't have electronics like we have
Mhm,
today, but they did have telegraph and telegraph poles and telegraph wires. And when
mhm,
that Carrington event occurred, now it has to happen with the sun pointed right at the earth, so it's kind of it's a very rare kind of a thing. But if one were to happen, and what happened in the 1800s is it electrified all the telegraph wires and started
mm.
fires at the telegraph stations.
Wow. So they knew something was up. They
Well,
knew. Yeah.
they knew something happened, and what would happen today if that happened?
Oh,
It
we'd be
would be
toast.
would be a disaster. We'd have a lot of oh
Yeah, we'd
boy,
be toast.
who
Yeah.
knows? It'd be a
Yeah.
mess. It'd be a
That's it
mess.
would be a mess. I interviewed a gentleman who worked for the military, and he consulted presidents on EMP attacks, like from nukes in space. And
Yeah,
after I was done with that interview, I just I it took me days to like kind of process, all of the
yeah,
horror that would take place. That's all I'm gonna say. It was just not a good scenario, so you just gotta pray that none of this stuff ever happens. Do you think that mainstream academia, like, resists the idea of large scale lost knowledge? I'm sure you have. what's the experience been like for you um, in that academic arena? Is your book rejected like the premise, or is it widely accepted?
No, there's, academia is very interested in it. I have several people interested in using it in schools and that sort of thing. Um, but
Oh, wow.
yeah, I'd be so excited if something like that occurred, especially with knowledge management, and knowledge management courses and coursework in universities.
Yeah.
Could be applicable. Um, but so we'll see how that plays out. We'll see how that
Oh, that'd
plays
be
out.
some honor if they could get your book
Yeah,
as a textbook. Wow.
yeah,
I could totally see that. I could see that. I mean, when I got my master's degree, we had a few authors that wrote kind of off the shelf books, and they went over really well instead of the traditional textbook, the boring
yeah,
kind of textbook. So yeah. So Herb says, I love a celestial globe. They're so cool. Hard to find decent modern versions. Yeah, those astronomical clocks are mind blowing too. Did you discover any of those, Jack? In your research, those astronomical clocks that I was talking about before, they're like automaton clocks, and they have all these gears and parts that like move. They seem insane to build today.
yeah. Well, there is the famous one they found in Greece. Why am I not? Yeah, there's a famous clock that they found there. They're calling it the oldest computer because
Yeah, yeah,
it's so complicated. It's
crazy.
so uh, we want to say um, amazing how it was built.
Yeah,
And I think when they find these things
yeah.
all the time, but quite often we're finding things like that where we were surprised, and they did um, uh, follow the stars a lot more than well, I don't know. We have a lot of people that like to follow them today, but
Yeah.
that was a big part of their culture, I think, the
Mhm.
stars.
Yeah, I've seen some documentaries where they'll talk about someone tried to create something, um, and then it didn't work particularly well, but they were like 90% there. And then because they weren't 100% there, they just threw the tech away. So we would never really know how fabulous that was. Maybe with a few tweaks, in today's technology, it could be something phenomenal, but they just disregarded it. That they just threw the blueprints away. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of that missing history too, of things that could have worked. Maybe in the next generation, somebody would have come up with a solution. So I could just imagine the things that were disregarded instead of saved too. That's pretty sad to think about.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. And people keep things to themselves as well. They don't want to share. you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you got that
Yeah.
part.
Absolutely. What about through like archaeological digs and discoveries? Do you think that do you feel that maybe they deserve more attention than they receive? Like that there's so much more to unearth? What's that been like during your research? Like, have you discovered something that you would just like mind blown?
Well, there is always things that come up. We have examples. The Archimedes death ray. You know, that
Oh, what
you
is
heard
that?
about that one?
No.
Well,
What is that?
that's an interesting one. They used this during the Roman siege of Syracuse. Syracuse was, I think that was off of Greece. And Archimedes, who was a very famous mathematician, he was a physicist, an engineer, an astronomer. He was just an inventor. Um, and he invented a death ray, or heat ray that they used, or they also called it a solar furnace that he used to keep the Romans at bay for like a year and a half. And what they
I
would
think I
do
saw that. Did
is
he
that,
use it to attack ships too?
yeah,
Yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Well, I'm just going to say that. So
Yeah.
he would use it to catch the ships on fire.
Yeah. Crazy. I didn't realize that's what it was called. That's
Yeah.
not. So what about that tech? Did we do we know how that worked or
Oh,
not?
well, modern universities, so they've tried to do this. They've tried to duplicate it. And they've had students go out, and they'd all hold mirrors and try to do it with mirrors or whatever. And they were not successful. I
No
mean,
way.
they could start a piece of wood, they could, start to burn a little bit, but
Yeah.
they couldn't really start a fire too successfully. And so, however he did it, is something that was
Crazy.
lost. It's lost in time.
That is so sad. Well, maybe not, because maybe that's a good one that got lost. You don't want that in the hands of like cartels or something like that. Good
Well,
Lord.
isn't that the way it is with everything, though?
Yeah.
You know, I, with going into that, can I talk a little bit about AI,
Yeah. What is that now?
artificial intelligence?
Oh,
AI?
absolutely. Oh, AI. I thought you said eight. Yeah. No, go right ahead.
Yeah, because I think I'm taking a look at history and what's happened, and if we go way back, Socrates, who was a famous philosopher,
Oh, yeah.
he thought when they came out with the written word on papyrus, whatever they were writing on, he thought that was going to be the end of man. Like they wouldn't have to remember anything, you
Mhm.
know. And then when the book came out, we thought, people thought, oh, that's the end of mankind or humankind, because we're going to have everything in a book now, and we won't have to remember anything. And then, we keep on doing it. And then if you think to like the calculator, when the calculator came out, everybody said, oh, the calculator, oh, that's terrible. Kids won't have to learn how to do math anymore. But none of that happened. None of that happened. Now, the book can save good information. It can save, bad information,
Yeah. Yeah.
can be used either way, so can a calculator, so can a piece of
Oh,
papyrus.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
so that's what I think about AI. I think AI is just the next evolution. Just like the World Wide Web was a big change for everybody, the AI is going to be another change where we're just going to continue to grow, and it'll help us in ways. And there'll be some negative things that come out of it as well.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's just another step in our growth. And if you look historically, that's the way we've progressed.
Yeah. Everything is doomsday at first. People think,
Yeah.
it's the end of the world. But so, Herb, what is this? The Antithic
Oh
era?
yeah,
What is that? Maybe you could talk to us about that.
yeah. The antique Earth device. Boy, it's a tongue twister.
It is a
That's, that's the name of the island where it was found. Um,
Oh,
Antikythera. Any rate, yeah. So that's the device that they found. That's it's over 2,000 years old. They call it the oldest computer that's ever been
oh,
made.
that's supposed to be that's the place where it was discovered, the oldest
Yeah,
computer.
yeah.
God, Herb, you know just about everything about everything. You always shock me. So do you have pictures of that in your book or no? I mean,
Yeah,
why?
yeah, there is.
Oh, because I
Yes,
didn't remember if I saw them in there.
it's yeah, I've got a picture of it where it's just in pieces. They found it encrusted.
Mm,
There was all kinds of, I
sure.
don't know what it was, coral or something all around it. But they've used X-rays to, you know, decompose it, take it apart, and they've built models of it now so they can show that it actually works. And they're
Yeah.
always finding new facts, new things that it could do that they didn't realize when they first discovered it. So it's really an amazing piece of technology that's ancient,
Incredible.
ancient.
It really does make you wonder, like you said before, if it's spiritual or if aliens helped us. I mean, it's just when you see things like that, discoveries like that, it really makes you wonder. Or like I said, maybe it's just mankind remembering. Maybe these abilities and this knowledge is innate in us, and we get these moments of remembrance on how to do these things. I mean, it could very well be. I
Yeah.
hope someday we get to find out, or maybe we won't. No one knows. Do you think transhumanism is going to be a big factor in us really not caring about the past so much? I mean, you've got Elon putting chips in brains, and transhumanism is here. It's already here, and a lot of people claim and have proof that with the mRNA technology and nanobots, that's already been injected into billions of people across the globe, which technically makes us transhuman because it's altering our DNA. I mean, it's a path that we're on and we're bound to complete. Do you think that once we become fully transhuman, that all of this ancient knowledge and history is just going to not matter anymore, and it's really going to, except for books like yours and historical documents, maybe people just won't care or know? I mean, I think about that.
Well, um, history is good for one thing. I mean, there's only one thing you can do with history, and that is learn from it.
Mm,
And so, as long as we still need to learn,
yeah,
we don't know everything, we're
right.
still going to need to use history in some form or fashion. I don't think we can do without it. I mean, that's how we get better. That's how we grow. That's how
Yeah,
we,
I'm just
improve.
wondering if no one will care. Once seriously, like once we get to a point where we're almost robot like, if all of our wonderful history, not only in the States here, but globally, if it just won't matter, if it'll become irrelevant. I just wonder about that. If it'll become, it's like what you don't know, you don't miss kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like we were saying, there's only 1.6% of the history is recorded. So uh, we're
That's
existing
my
just
goal.
fine without it, without the other 98% or about.
Yeah.
So can we do without it? I don't know. I think that's what our mind is made up of is
Yeah. Yeah.
historical things. What you
Yeah.
did as a child or what you did as an adult or whatever. That's how you learn. That's your behavior.
Oh gosh, yeah. Absolutely. Unless they start just downloading this information through these brain chips, maybe they'll, kind of like the Matrix where they, plug you into a machine and just download the information to you. I don't know. It's crazy to think about, but it all kind of ties in. I mean, there's so much of ancient history that we're fascinated with and we appreciate and love. And I just hope it stays that way. In your book, you talk about the collapse of the Bronze Age, right? Civilizations, the destruction, which we talked about, of the Library of Alexandria. And then there are these periods of the Dark Ages, right? Um, During these times, what did you see that was like cyclical about them? Like, did each one of them lose history of the other? Did they recognize that they lost? Did you trip upon any of that where they were saying, like, gee, if we had ancient history examples or from 1,000 years ago, I don't know. Like, I'm just wondering if it kind of bled into each other as time went by that they knew?
They must have realized it. And you know how people are, sometimes they just jump into something, and they start a city, and they just, have little buildings, and they don't really think about adding
Yeah.
a sewer system. And before
Yeah.
you know it, you got 400 buildings, and then you got 4,000 buildings. I think it was Napoleon. So this is an interesting story. I believe it was Napoleon who at one point took the center of Paris and moved everyone out,
Mm,
and they put in sewer and water systems and rebuilt the center of the city, and then had everybody move back in.
it's crazy.
Yeah, kind of amazing. And
It
so I
really
just,
is.
so they must have realized it, and said, hey, this isn't working. The sewage in the streets, let's fix it. You know.
Yeah, and that's like a great example. If you look at a lot of third world countries today, they don't even have proper water and sewer still
Mhm.
in this time. So it makes you wonder, like, what are these governments doing? Like, why aren't they looking at someone like Napoleon who figured it out? Like, move your people out, fix it, and move them back in. Like, it's crazy. There's so many people that are, pooping in holes in the ground. I
Mhm.
mean, it's
Yep,
nuts.
still going
It's
on. Yeah,
nuts. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I hate to put it that way, but sometimes I think people don't care. They're
Yeah.
just they're just careless.
Well, I think it's like what you said before that, war, power, money, all those things come as a priority to the human condition. And that's really sad. But I think you were spot on with that. So some other examples you bring up in your book that I really loved, and we talked about some of this, the precision stonework in places like Pumapunka, right? Another place called Baalbek, I think it is, where you talk about massive stones, Roman concrete, durability, things like that. Do you think those things were knowledge passed on, or was it just discovering, remembering, maybe? How do you
Yeah,
think that?
it's almost it's interesting because you see it all over. Um, Go to Mayan ruins, you'll see they used concrete in some of their
Mm,
stonework.
yeah,
They don't know exactly how they did it or how it's made, and it rivals what we make today. It's still there, after
that's
thousands of
great.
years. Yeah, the Romans came up with concrete that would cure underwater, even. So, yeah, I think it comes from needs. What we have a need for something, so we invent it. But
Yes, based on
like
that.
like you say, though, it may be some type of remembering.
Mm,
Maybe inspiration. You ever get inspired?
absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know,
You know
that's
what's
real.
mind-blowing, to the point you made about the underwater concrete? They didn't have scuba gear or anything. These people held their breath, right, when they went under. So think of the divers that they would have, skilled divers alone to test the concrete. I'm sure they had numerous trips to make sure they got it right, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was so much more complicated than we would imagine. Today, we'd scuba gear somebody up and send them under there, but these people had to hold their breath to go. It's like crazy when you think about it, right?
Yeah. Well, that is interesting because there's people that can hold their breath for amazing amount of time underwater, some of these divers, but they must have had skilled people that would do that for them. Yeah, you're right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, and think of the years of practice it would take to get to that point where you're just able to hold your breath that long. It's mind blowing. What about like the eruptions at Pompeii? Buried so much Are we discovering, like, are we still excavating there? Or, like, what do you think is going on in the archaeological arena that's uncovering a lot of what you've talked about in your book? Have you discovered any of that that's going on?
Yeah, there have been discoveries that this will be in my next book, but
Ah, of
but
course, I'm going to ask you about that.
yeah, this is but they've found all kinds of things like I know they've found places where they made things like bread, and they've been able to like recover the yeast and then make the same
Wow.
bread again here.
Wow.
And what else? I think beer. They've done the same thing with beer, where
Hmm.
they analyzed what was in the beer containers or whatever, and been able to reproduce that. So that archaeology is producing some things that we're able to do ourselves now, and they've become popular. I think some of these items.
Wow.
What is it?
Mind
Yeah,
blowing stuff, right?
yeah,
Um, what about, we talked a little bit about climate and global warming. Do you think that's affecting a lot of these discoveries too? Like, how do you think that, did you discover in your research that, due to climate change, a lot of what we could be discovering, we can't, or maybe vice versa? Like, how is that affecting things, if at
yeah.
all?
Well, there is weather changes for sure. I just read just the other day on Easter Island, there was a lake bed that dried up, and they
Mm.
found some more of these, those statues that they have on Easter
Oh,
Island.
yeah.
This big,
Those things are amazing. What are they called again? The big heads?
yeah.
Um,
Uh,
I know, Hillbilly Herb. Come on. You know what the name. This guy blows me away. His knowledge is like crazy. He's one of our regulars that pop in. Um, yeah, and they go deep, right?
yeah,
Like they're not just the head. There's like feet and feet and feet of them, the rest of it buried underground, right?
yeah. Well, these new ones they found are miniature, so they're
Oh,
like,
really?
but they're still stone, pretty big stones, but not as big as the ones that you see.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Now they
Murai,
found this because the lake bed dried up? Is
yeah,
that
yeah,
wow.
yeah. So they're finding more of these artifacts. So I think they find more artifacts all the time. Yeah,
Yeah, that's gotta be pretty exciting for them. I mean, because good oh, that's right. That's what they're called, the moai. Moai. Thank you, Herb, appreciate it. Um, yeah, because I think too that global warming is definitely a cyclical thing. It's kinda proven that it's cyclical. It's
mm,
happened to our globe for
yeah,
millions of years, way before humans were even on it. So, I could just imagine stuff that's buried like in the Antarctica where you can't go primarily. You could go to certain regions of it, but I could just imagine what's under the ice too, right?
yeah.
Crazy
Oh,
stuff that they
sure.
would find there. Yeah,
We're gonna
yeah,
find some interesting things. Yeah, interesting
yeah.
artifacts.
So, did you during your research, what kind of things did you unearth, like in terms of burned manuscripts due to like religious conflicts? Did they uncover, parts of them that were burned where we were able to get some information from? Or what's that been like in terms of things that were intentionally destroyed? Have we been
Yeah.
able to save any of that? Or,
Well, there's a couple of examples here. We talked about Qin Shi, that Rome, the
mhm.
Chinese emperor. He did something interesting. Well, interesting. I don't know. Um, he had a library with all these documents, and he said no one else is allowed allowed to have documents. So we're going to burn everybody else's. and get rid of them. And if you're found with any kind of a document, scroll or any kind of spiritual text, um, we're going to tattoo you on the forehead and send you to the Great Wall of China to work on that.
Oh, wow.
So, that's an example of a time where for sure spiritual texts were lost. And they do know of several that were lost there because of that. There's writings about them that they know they existed, but we can't find any copies. And the same thing with the Library of Alexandria. There were a lot of texts in there that were um, spiritually related that
Yeah,
were destroyed on purpose. The people who destroyed that library destroyed it on purpose, and
absolutely.
part of it was because of those scrolls, because they didn't want those to get out.
Boy, talk about censorship, right? I
Yeah,
mean, people silence what they're afraid of. So
yeah,
there's that too, right?
yeah.
Do you think that knowledge is a part of what makes civilization like alive? Do you think that it's meant like psychologically for humans to
Well,
maybe forget these things intentionally? Maybe it's just our destiny. What's your thoughts on that?
yeah. Well, there's a couple different aspects of knowledge. I like to say there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Mm,
And, wisdom, I think, is the proper application of knowledge. Like it's wisdom often comes with experience, but, it's like the small child that you tell not to touch the hot stove.
yeah,
And you say, no, don't touch it. It's hot. You're going to burn
right,
yourself.
right,
And guess what? They go and touch it. They burn themselves. And now they had the knowledge, you gave them the knowledge.
right.
You
Yeah,
didn't have the wisdom
they
to
don't have
not
the wisdom.
touch. And I think sometimes it's the same for us.
Yes,
We,
absolutely.
we're children in some regards, some ways. And, we need to have the wisdom to make the right choices. Now you can tell somebody it's hard to impart wisdom on
Oh,
someone.
possible.
You
Almost
know it, your kids or whatever, you tell them
absolutely.
now, don't do that. It's not going to turn out good. You know, the
Gosh, that's so
result,
true. That's so true. I have 2 kids and they're polar opposites. My son, I could tell him once, "Don't touch the hot stove," and he would absolutely listen. My daughter, I could tell her 100 times and she'd still be putting her hand on the hot stove. It's just so true how
yeah,
uniquely different we
yeah.
are.
So I
It's
think some
crazy.
of us are more open to it, and
Yeah.
that is one of the things I talk about in the book is being humble
Ah,
and being open to those ideas, and be open to new ideas or things that are different. Be humble. It's you might
absolutely.
you might benefit from it.
Oh,
Hopefully.
that should be tattooed on something. It should be. So Herb says he believes the rows of moe that you see along the shorelines were meant to be seen from afar, thinking post flood, a message from distant boats. Yeah, that's a great point. Also, in your book, you talk about astrological connections too, right, Jack? So maybe too with the moai, I mean, there could be a lot of astrological connections with the pyramids. Obviously, there are. Did you trip across a lot of those types of connections in your book?
um Astrological only from the standpoint of the astrolobes and the devices and things that were built to show astrological uh, details. I am going to plan, well, the next book is also going to talk about structures megaliths and monoliths that are above
Mhm.
and below the ground. And I think there is a lot there that we're not aware of as far as the relationships with the stars and a lot of
Mm.
astrology, that
Did you
people,
start writing that already, or is it
it's
kind
just
of
in
in draft?
the early stages. Yeah, very
Yeah,
early.
yeah. So do you mean like things that are hidden deep within the oceans? Maybe cities that are lost, like Atlantis or something, or just monoliths? Like what?
Well, it could be. So there are places around the world where there's, you don't want to say a building underground, but there are, places that have been dug out. Um, there's some that have very interesting, um, like sound effects, we'll say,
Mm.
resonances,
Yeah.
frequencies, the harmonies. And what was the purpose of that? Why did they build this place underground that, you could make a sound and it would reverberate through the whole
Oh, yeah.
place?
Yeah. Well, the
Was it?
great example of that too is bells. A lot of the bells that were made were buried intentionally because of their resonance, and a lot of people believe they have healing. They use them in healings, sound frequencies, and things like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that that's an excellent point. I think that book's going to be really an exciting read too, because it's a hot topic right now. Like a lot of people are talking about vibration, energy, sound resonance, things like that. So you're saying that there are underground buildings, or just what?
Well,
What exactly?
yeah, they're not really buildings. They're more like they've
Caves?
caves, kind of caves, but they're not like just a hole in the ground. They're more sophisticated than that. They're more
Mm,
well thought out, more purposeful. And what was the purpose? Maybe it was healing. Maybe it was,
yeah.
there's some other purpose. I don't know.
Geez, so what they knew, maybe they absolutely knew something we didn't. If they, because think about what it would take for them to dig and build, and
Oh yeah,
the
some
same
of
like with
these
pyramids. Yeah.
some of these are huge. I mean, they're enormous. How'd they do that? How
Yeah.
did they dig these out? So they must have had their own technology or ways of doing that. Maybe they
Crazy.
melted the ground. I don't know.
Yeah,
Something.
that's what I was kind of thinking, that they knew something obviously that we don't know. Maybe it is a spiritual connection to the earth that we forgot.
Yeah.
Maybe we just, as time evolved and we civilized, we just let that slip away, which is so sad when you think about it. Like, do you think that humanity's greatest vulnerability really isn't ignorance, but maybe it's just overconfidence? Like,
Yeah. There's that, a little ego in there. Say, we don't need this old stuff. We'll just do the new
yeah,
stuff. We're smarter than they were, so who
exactly.
cares?
The cocky
Yeah.
arrogance that we have. Now,
Yeah.
you were an electrical engineer, right?
Right. Yeah.
And something to do with biblical studies too?
Right. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Studied the Bible. Yeah.
Nice.
I studied a
How
lot
did
of spiritual
yeah.
texts, actually, many different places. I kind of had a big change in my life in 2007, and I read everything I could find on all types of spiritual topics.
Oh, wonderful. Well, if you don't mind me asking, was it an event that transmuted you in 2007, or was it just you woke up one day and had an epiphany?
Yeah, it was an event, but probably not one that you would think of as a big event. So in 2007, I ended up losing a tooth.
Mm.
And now you wouldn't think that losing a tooth, I kind of think of it like some of these games, you can play these games, computer games, and they have these things called Easter eggs that you
Oh, yeah.
uncover, and you get the Easter egg, it's like hidden.
Yeah.
I think it was my Easter egg. At any rate, I think it was placed there by me somehow. And so when I lost that tooth, I was like, it affected me more than anything I think I've ever
Oh, my
experienced
good
in my
word. No
life.
kidding.
Yeah, I changed everything. I changed what I ate. I changed what I read. I voraciously read everything I could. Um,
That's a
you know,
first. That I mean, I've lost teeth and it's upsetting, but it never affected me. So
yeah,
so I that's
well,
so
yeah,
amazing to hear
kind of
that.
weird. It's kind of weird. Well, I figured it out later. I didn't know why. I was like, why did that? That's kind of a strange thing. But here's the thing, it kind of led me to my mortality. You know,
Ah,
that tooth is gone. It's not going to come back. It's like I've lost a part of me that is gone, you know. And what about the rest of me? It's kind
I
of deep.
see.
Yeah.
So it kinda opened up a window for you that you questioned your mortality and your
Yeah.
reason for being, so to say, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So did you turn to the Bible first, or did you read spiritual, books? Like,
Uh,
how did that work?
I read everything, Edgar Casey,
Yeah.
uh, Douglas Cottrell. I read about, all these things, these people that um, channel
Mm,
whatever, all different
yeah,
sorts of things.
yeah.
I read everything I could get my hands on. Uh, studied the um, uh, all these different texts and different religious studies, and then I came to realize there was like a common thread through everything. You
Mhm,
can read about love one another as yourself, and
mhm.
how that theme is like in every kind of uh,
Yeah.
spiritual um, book
From the
or
Bible to Edgar Casey. It's
everybody,
prevalent.
everybody.
Yeah.
It's all about love.
Yeah, it's
So
a truth with a capital T.
yeah, so yeah, and that's what led me. And then I got to the Bible. I read that. It's really an amazing piece of work that was put together, and so it just
The
fascinated
Bible
me. Yeah.
the Yeah, the sad thing about the Bible is that, and I'm no Bible aficionado, but I do read it, um, is that a lot of it was would intentionally talk about things left out. There was a lot left out of the Bible intentionally, that we deserved to see and know. With the book of Enoch alone should have been, and then you had people coming in modifying the Bible and
Yeah.
republishing it because of their political perspectives and religious belief. So yeah, I mean, I get you. So
But
so you had this event happen, and then you did all this reading and modifying your lifestyle and change of who you were, your belief system. And what did you like? Did you come to rest with that at some point? Did you have an acceptance that we're corporeal beings and we're not gonna be here forever? Like, what was the final conclusion for you?
it's the conclusion. The conclusion's difficult. So
Yeah.
the conclusion is
We're gonna
that,
die. That's the
that
conclusion.
well, well, no, the conclusion. Well, yeah, we are, of
Yeah,
course, but the conclusion is here's the conclusion of everything. Take
yeah,
everything together and
yeah,
condense it down into one sentence. The one sentence is we are here to learn to love one another. That's
yeah.
it. That's it. We're here to learn. This is all a big training, and we're
Yes.
here to learn. And that's the
Yes.
only purpose, because when you leave here, you are not taking anything with you, your house, your money, you know.
Yeah, there's no U-Hauls following a hearse. I mean,
No, none of that. You're not taking
yeah,
it. You're only going to take what you've learned. So learn the right things and take that with you. That's
that is
the
spot on. That is spot on. And I think that's a brilliant and very heartwarming way to get to that conclusion. And it's funny because it's almost simplistic in
Mhm.
its nature, but it's a learned thing, like don't put your hand on the stove. It's a wisdom that you have to learn because you can read that sentence and it can mean nothing to a lot of people. But to folks like us that have been through grief and learning and decades of reading and studying, that sentence changes. It has a whole different meaning, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
So you're
Everybody's
right.
experiences are different.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it is about learning for sure. Definitely. So your next book is clearly on its way to giving birth. What year do you think you see that happening?
Well, I think probably I would say late this year, early next year.
Oh, so soon.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah. I'm thinking, we can really benefit. There's been so much interest in this one. I can't tell you, Carol Ann, thank you for
That's
having me on.
wonderful.
But there
Of
really has been so much, and people who are, not just talking about it because it's it's more than just a story. It's really has something that can benefit you. So
Oh,
it'd be
definitely.
great.
It really does. Like, there's parts I highlighted. That's why I love PDFs because you could just quickly highlight
Mm.
stuff that you want and, kind of pop back into it. But it really makes you think about your mortality too. And it makes, like you mentioned before, saving things that really mean something to you and who's gonna be unearthing them when you're gone, and like what meaning and value are they going to hold. There's so much involved in that. And just discovering all the stuff that we knew and did is just mind blowing. It really is.
Yeah, yeah.
I would have to say, after you publish your next book, we're going to have you back because that's going to be another exciting topic. So, we'll reach out to you, and to your publicist to make sure we get you booked back on again. All right, Jack?
All right. Yeah. Sounds great.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure and a lot of
Yeah.
fun talking to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. If anybody's interested, go to my website, lostintime.world.
Lord, I
Yeah.
forgot to run your banner. We also have JR. Did I pronounce your last name right?
You,
Bialik?
you did. That's good.
Oh, good, good. And
jrbialik.com. Yeah. Or
good.
lostintime.world is probably easier for folks to remember.
LostInTime.world.
Yeah.
Okay, so for folks that are listening, it's JRBIALIK.com and lostintime.world.
World. World.
Okay. I've never saw that extension
Oh,
before, .world.
I
That's
know.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Try it. Yeah. It works.
Wow.
You,
Nice. I
you
like that.
yeah, you can make it whatever you want. You just have to
You
buy
can
the
make any
domain.
URL that you want. Yeah. Wow. That is so creative. So lostintime.world to purchase the book. And of course, we have the links in the description of the video on all the social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, wherever you go, you can check out Jack's work and purchase his book as well. Thank you so much, Ku Thunder. Always a joy seeing each and every one of you in the chat. Thank you. Blessings to you all. And thank you, Jack. We will have you back on again for sure. And you have a blessed and wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you. And same to you.
Thank
and
you,
all your
dear.
guests. Yeah.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye for now.
Yeah, that was pretty fascinating conversation. I loved every minute of it. Definitely check out his book. That's one of the things I love about interviewing these types of topics and people because we get to read so much. It's just incredible what we get to learn. And thank you all for tuning in. Of course, you've been listening to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled live on United Public Radio Network. Blessings and thanks to them. They are the best. And of course, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. And again, you can listen to them on 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. Tonight's conversation reminds us of something both humbling and strangely empowering. Knowledge is not a guarantee, it's earned, protected, transmitted, and unfortunately, sometimes lost. So, if history teaches us anything, it's that civilizations are not permanent, which is sad but true. They are fragile experiments. We have libraries burning, cities sinking, skills vanishing when the master dies. It's sad but beautiful in a way. Hopefully, we get to rediscover a lot of that through books like Jack. So, thank you so much, Jack. Blessings to you, and thank you so very much, everyone in the chat. Don't forget, please, and thank you to join us tomorrow. We are going to have Flat Earth Dave back on the show. And this time we're going to talk about a topic that I think you will all enjoy. It's called, Is Reality Curated for Us, or is the Age of Engineered Belief something we're living in right now? Please be sure and join us tomorrow. That is Thursday, the 26th. Wow, this month. February's always fly by like a snap. And we will be live at 5:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you again so much in the chat. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. Take care.